Hello, bonjour Angela Brady.
Bonjour Catherine.
Je suis très heureuse d'être avec vous aujourd'hui pour le 8 mars. We are now for the 8th of March 2021. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Well, happy Women's International Day, everybody. My name is Angela Brady, and I am a director of Brady Mallalieu Architects, and I'm based in London. As you can hear, I'm Irish, and I've been in London for 30 years.
Can you speak of your path to get to be an architect and some words about your career?
I graduated in Dublin from the Dublin Institute of Technology, DUT as it's called, and there was no work in Ireland at the time. So I got a scholarship to go to Denmark to study co-housing, which was a great insight into alternative ways of living. And I went to Toronto for a year as there was still no work in Ireland. And then I said I'd come back via London because most of my classmates were actually working in London and there was a boom. So came here, thought I'd stay for a few years, and I'm still here. No regrets.
So you work with your husband, you are associate. What is the repartition of the role? Who is doing what in your office?
So after working for a few years in larger and smaller practices in London, we had great social activities and we used to play softball. And then I spotted this very nice chap, and he is my husband and partner, Brady Mallalieu, and we have been in practice for 30 years this year. So we run it as equal partners. We have a mixture of between 3 and 10 staff, depending if there's a recession or not. And we work on all kinds of buildings from £500,000 to 50 million. I suppose the largest the largest building that we did was the 200 homes in the Isle of Dogs in London, central London. And that was a mixed use. It was a mixture of social housing, private housing, and it had a huge key worker, 50% key workers. And it was our tallest building to date out of the 200 buildings or so we have done at this stage. It was 23 stories going right down, and it had lots of community involvement and community facilities there.
Do you think that the parity is currently arrived on your country, or is it okay for women?
In the UK, there is still a disparity of women in architecture, and we have 35% who are working in the larger practices. And if you look at overall, we're still only 26% in practice. But the numbers in university are 50-50, so that's quite good, you know, in the 58 schools of architecture. But we need to have better parity, and we need to feel that we don't have to fight for being a woman architect or to be a Black and ethnic minority architect. So I think it's really important that for equality in architecture, that we reflect more of the community that we are. And if we're 50-50 in the community, we should be 50-50 in practice. And we need still to push people along to make that difference. And that's what you and I have been doing for 20 years.
Yes, you have been participate on the jury in France 9 years ago. What do you think of this initiative, of this prize?
I think it is great that you are recognizing women in architecture and have done so for so many years. I think it's important because it's not there. And I think that if you actually open people's eyes and say, oh, now isn't that interesting? Or there's a different point of view or whatever it might be, that you are championing women in architecture. Now, in this day and age, you would think we wouldn't have to. And in some ways, things are improving. Because as an Irish architect as well, in Ireland, the situation seems to be a lot better. There are more women in architecture, and also the top architects are women. Grafton architects have won practically every prize going, as have the husband-wife team, O'Donnell Toomey. They have won all the big prizes. So women are at the top. So that's a good thing. So it's now getting more women in from the bottom up, so that we actually have a much more diverse range of architects to reflect the society that we live in.
So, as you told us, you have a prize in England made by the journal, Architect Journal. Do you think it's a good way to promote women, this prize?
I think that the Architects Journal Women in Architecture Prize is really good because it again recognises women in architecture and the various projects or whatever aspect they're actually looking for. I think it could be a little bit more open and should be a free event or a free online event because the high cost of attending actually puts most people off. But anyway, I think it's good to have that recognition. And it's something actually that the Architects for Change group, when I chaired Women in Architecture back in 2000, this was our aim. Our aim was to get the recognition, to get more diversity, and instead of moaning about it, to actually say, hey, you know, we're really good at this. Look, here's some of our projects.
So some years ago, you founded the diversity at the exhibition you call Snowball. Can you explain us what it was exactly?
Yeah, in 2003, our Architects for Change group had decided that we would celebrate all of the wonderful diversity of it was diverse city. That's the diversity of people in cities. And we started with London with 50 people. And we said, okay, we're going to change the face of the architect, you know, less male and less pale. That is going to be much more diverse. And we put up this exhibition at the RIBA, and then we got a call from China. We got a call from, oh gosh, we went to 34 cities around the world, and including, of course, ARVHA in Paris. You joined in with us, as did many of our European women colleagues. But it went, you know, from the States right around the world, and to 2 places in China, and really everywhere it went, we asked, give us 10 of your best. Add it in, and that was like the snowball. So as it snowballed around, it got bigger and bigger. And then in 2010, we invited everybody back to the RIBA and say, well, where are we now? You know, 7 years later, are things improving? And in fact, we want to do that again 10 years on. And things are improving, but still very slowly. They could be faster, but in any recession, it's very often women are the ones that take the brunt of it. And so with the recession that we're in at the moment, we've just got to keep going there, be steady, steady hand, stick up for your rights and equal pay.
A question for a woman architect or architect. How do you get projects? Do you make competitions? Do you have how do you get the project?
Yeah, it's interesting because in the UK, they have got very complicated procurement routes to finding jobs with government or with local authorities. And they favor the big boys, you know, the big firms. If you've done several of these projects before, or if your turnover is X million a year. And that cuts out the majority of the smaller practices. And at the moment, I don't think it's a very fair system. Now that we're out of the EU, the system is the same because they just adopted the same rules. But to be honest, like-minded people often attract like-minded, you know, clients and architects. So many of our clients are women. 50% of our clients are women, for example. And a lot of our jobs are community and social housing projects because that's where we like to give our best, and we like to really promote quality, sustainable architecture. And we like to do a lot of what's called community consultation, where we go into the communities and we meet a lot of different people. So in one of our recent projects called Brickworks, which is only a couple of miles from here, we did a huge community consultation with 50 different groups to find out what they needed in this community centre we were designing for them, for the local council. And it included 34 social housing projects as well. So it was a mixed use development, and it is one of our favourite projects, and mainly because the community we've given them the ownership, their ideas, what they wanted. Because as architects, we can't presume that we know what they want. And I think it's very arrogant when people try that and say, oh, well, here you go, standard. You have to be special. You have to listen to people. And I think that women have got a great ability to listen to the clients and then to react and come up with all the different ideas. And once they have ownership of it, they will look after it better, they will use it better, and they will love it. So that's our Brickworks project, one of our favorites.
So we are the 8th of March. And what are your recommendations to improve the situation of women in architecture?
I think the best way is to up our numbers. And whilst they've been going up 1 or 2% every year, the best way is to be the role model. And everybody out there, is a role model as a woman architect or a Black and ethnic minority architect. Go into schools. And when you go into the schools, you are being a role model and saying, oh, that's a career I would like. She's doing it very well. And I love this project we're doing. And they're doing a workshop and they're learning about the environment. And really, architecture these days is all about creating a future, better environment that is more sustainable. And at the end of the day, we all have to do this. We have to get people on board and to help change our environment for the better.
So thank you very much. I think you are optimistic for the situation of women, don't you?
I think so. I think our time has come now. I think that we have reached numbers, but we still need to not be hidden or forgotten. We need to keep out there. And, you know, Catherine, may I just say that what you at ARVHA and your colleagues have done over the last 15 years or more, it has been tremendous. So I want to say thank you on behalf of the UK and Irish architects, that we recognize that what you're doing is a great thing. And I think that what we are doing at the RIBA and our group, all of us together, our other groups that we met, you know, in Linz and in all of the other places that we went with Diversity and that you came and joined us, I think that was a kind of an awakening moment where we realized that together we've got more strength. And we won't put up with any of this, people trying to put down women architects or pay less. You know, there are laws there to protect our roles, and we want to go forward positively, because my motto is women and men together make the best architecture and place. And it's not a fight among ourselves. It's that working together that really, at the end, will make better architecture for all.
Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Catherine. A bientôt.
À bientôt.